Welcome back to the Daily Dope Show. I'm your host, Brando, the Weed Commando. And the reason I say that is because I feel like we're in a war, right? This is a damn war. And it's like you don't even know who your allies are. And it seems like, if you've been in this war as long as I have, there's a couple things you've learned about politicians. Is one, they're totally full of shit. They're not trying to do anything to help you or to get what you want to get done. They are being lobbied by the exact people that you are fighting in reality. Like when you're talking about any issue. You can apply that to any issue, but let's just apply it to this issue. The legalization of marijuana. Well, you would think that since the Republicans have always been this super authoritarian, prohibition-minded, the people that are making it illegal and obstructing it when it's trying to become legal in every way, shape, and form that they can. And on the federal level, that means not letting sensible amendments for the marijuana industry be attached to bills, like spending bills, so that they could become, de facto law for a temporary period of time for things that would do things like let veterans access medical marijuana, have research for medical marijuana, have research for marijuana in general, since like 9 states have been approved adult use. So like what you got politicians on both sides of the aisle that are being bankrolled by big pharma, big tobacco, big alcohol, big prison industrial complex related people, the military industrial complex, who for some reason also hates marijuana, and of course the banksters, who of course hate marijuana. Well, they don't hate marijuana, they just don't like legal marijuana, because legal marijuana, to them, it just becomes another commodity, and then eventually they don't really have much to do with the huge profits that are reaped in the black market from drug cartels. Because that's why they like it, because they're laundering money for the drug cartels. And if you don't believe that, look up HSBC. They got caught laundering money for Mexican chop your head off cartels, and Al Qaeda, blow you up with an IED on the side of the road in Afghanistan. Al Qaeda, yeah, them guys, they were laundering money for them too. But they're totally opposed to legalization. And if you don't believe me, look up Uruguay. I did a video about it, how Uruguay legalized marijuana and they were giving it away through pharmacies for people that can't afford it. And you could buy it at pharmacies for real low prices and whatnot too. But you know what? The big banks didn't like that. So they told their people in Uruguay to stop doing that shit, or they will stop doing business with them. And the banks that do business with the pharmacies passed the buck. And it kind of disrupted things. So I'm getting kind of sidetracked here. Basically what I'm saying is, in America, in American politics, the Democrats have been dropping the ball on this issue a lot lately. Like, I gotta say, man, for a party that really has never done anything more than like carrot stick politics, where they just kind of talk about it a little bit and don't have anything negative to say about the issue. And then they basically say, oh yeah, I smoked weed once or something. Just have a book written where they talk about when they smoked weed, like Obama did, or didn't inhale like Bill Clinton. These are what Democrats do. They make you think that they're going to do something, but they never do it. Or they think, oh, this guy's more reasonable than the Republican, obviously. And people get in my comment section and they talk about how I slam Republicans on this issue all the time. Hey, man... You know what? If you don't like it, write your fucking Republican representative and bitch at him about it. All right? Bitch at fucking Pete Sessions about it. Bitch at Mary Phelan. Bitch at the Republicans in Lansing. Bitch at the Republicans in Ohio that tried to take that shit over. Bitch at, I don't know, any Republican in a red state that absolutely doesn't want marijuana legalized. How about Arkansas, where they did the same thing as Michigan with the licenses being priced so high that no small business could ever dream of getting one. So it isn't me, and it isn't my hate for Republicans. I don't give a shit about labels like Republican and Democrat and all that shit. That shit don't mean shit to me. What means anything to me is what you are doing about this shit. What are you doing about these issues? You know, what has Democrats done for you lately on marijuana? Not a whole lot, except for grandstand. Every damn Democrat that wants to run for president in 2020 has a magical marijuana bill that's going to solve everybody's problems. Except for nobody really wants to sign on to it because it's just a big grandstanding bunch of bullshit. You know? Republicans are no better, obviously. Even the ones that are supposedly for legalization or even for states' rights or whatever it is, you know, hemp at the very least. I mean, Rand Paul said he was for legalization of marijuana a long time ago. Well, he's changed his tune on that recently, but he still claims to be for hemp legalization, but he's hardly anywhere to be found when it comes to advocacy, especially for regular marijuana. Let's just face it, man, it's all the fucking same. Who cares if you can get high off of one of them? That is such a moot point, man. It's like, big deal, dude. Like, this is America. This is such a hypocritical thing to worry about whether or not you can get high off of something. People try to get high off of shit you're not supposed to get high off of every day and end up in the hospital. This whole idea that we're not supposed to get high or something, what the fuck even is that? Let me just go one more time. America represents 5% of the world's population. That's it. That's all we are. We're just a little dot on the map, 5%. But we use 80% of all the drugs in the world. Can you even wrap your brain around that shit for 1 minute? All those poppy fields and coca plantations that they have in clandestine labs and shit. All that shit that you're looking at there, when you look out over the landscape and you see that there's almost 1 million or 1 million acres of poppy fields now in Afghanistan. Since we invaded their country back in 2002, and ever since we've been there, the poppy production has gone up, and their market share of the world's opium markets have gone up too. It's to the point now, you know, when we first got there, the poppy fields were under 200,000 acres. Now we're at 1 million acres. Back when we first got there, their market share of the world's opium market share was less than 50%. I think it was like 42%. Now it's over 90%, and I think it's 96%. I'm not positive on that. I haven't looked at that number in a while. I don't know if it was even... Anyway, again, getting sidetracked. I'm just saying that it's hypocritical as hell for any politician to say, well, marijuana gets you high. Yeah, we know that shit, but who cares? That's exactly why we don't care about what politicians say. It's like, dude, alcohol is legal. You could die if you drink too much of it. You could die if you drive your car on it. Guaranteed you could definitely crash your car. So we deal with this shit. It's really hard to deal with. It's really hard to be, you know, a weed commando. And time and time again, I get bitched at about this whole thing where I'm slamming Republicans, but it's not the Republicans. It's not the Democrats. It's the donors. That's who we're fighting. We're fighting the donors. And it just so happens that Republicans are way more awash with donor money than the Democrats. It's a close race, but Republicans have them beat by a mile, especially when it comes to the shady shit going on behind the scenes with big alcohol and big tobacco, big pharma. Now, those are the three that are the most sinister in their efforts to make marijuana continue to be illegal, something you can go to jail over, because these guys are peddling death. You know, Big Pharma's got all their most addictive and deadly drugs on Schedule 2 or lower. No problem. You know, I mean, it's just absurd. Tobacco kills 400,000 people a year. And the social cost of that is unsurmountable. Like, it's not even just a social cost. It's a social ill and a social, like, post-traumatic stress thing, because everybody knows somebody that's dying of cancer. And thank God the number of people smoking, and people like me and my parents both quit. So the quitting smoking thing is great. I'm glad to see that happening. Keep that up, everybody. I'm just babbling on and on. This video seems like it's never going to get underway, but I just want everybody to be clear where I stand in the political spectrum. I'm pretty much like a really left-leaning liberal type guy. I mean, I could sit here and tell you issue for issue or whatever, but, you know, overall, I think I'm a social democrat, if you know what that is. And I don't think that really matters, though. I mean, what really matters is where you fall on specific issues. And to me, I'm not a one-issue guy, but this is one of the most important fucking issues. Because if you take a stance against legalizing marijuana or ending prohibition, that really fucking says a lot about your character. It says a lot about a lot of shit. So that's where I am on that. You know, like if you're for full-throated prohibition, I'm full coming at you. Just look at all the videos I made about Chris Christie. Just look at all the videos I made about LePage, and I'm about to make another one. I hate prohibitionists. I mean, that's a strong word, but people like Kevin Sabat, they make my fucking stomach turn. Because it's just disgusting what they're doing. This disingenuous, unintelligent, non-intellectual argument that they're having basically with themselves. Like, they make a talking point, or they say something like Chris Christie, for example, oh, you know, recreational marijuana taxes revenue is blood money. Oh, really? That's blood money? My God. I don't even want to open the book on the blood money that guy fucking swims in every day. So, all jokes aside, which I don't know if I've really cracked any jokes, I'm not trying to be funny here. This video is specifically about the Democratic Party. Believe it or not, we're 10 minutes in, and yeah, 11, almost 12 minutes in, and I'm like, you know what? This is about the damn Democrats. Even though I've been talking a lot about Republicans, the Democrats are shit. All right? I voted for Bill Clinton, thinking this guy might actually do something or let something get done. No, it didn't happen. Same with Obama. Like, Obama was coming in real hot. He had a book out where he talked about the Choom Gang, where him and his homeboys would ride around smoking weed all day. You know, I mean, what the fuck? How would you be not coming in, and I'm the president now? How would you be like, let's just forget about that weed issue. Let's not do anything about that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, I guess the you know, the norm is if you go in there and you probably smoked weed, but you didn't admit it on the debate stage before you got elected president. Next thing you know, you don't have to do anything about it. But when the time comes and all the donors are pushing you out there on the stage, you're going to go full-throated against it. And that's what mostly all the presidents before Clinton did, you know, in my lifetime, except for Jimmy Carter. But I was kind of young, and I don't really remember that particular side of Jimmy Carter. It was just right before I really started smoking weed. So anyway, we're going to get into this. Finally, let's get right into it. What we have here is a video by CBS News, and they're going to be talking about the Democrats and how more incumbents are finally coming aboard to legalizing marijuana as an issue. But as you're going to see, it's pretty tepid. So let's just go ahead and start watching this.
New York State's Department of Health is backing the legalization of recreational marijuana. In a 74-page report, the department said the positive effects outweigh the negatives. It now goes to Governor Andrew Cuomo for review and likely rejection. But
wait a minute. What? Did he just say likely rejection? I mean, Cuomo was the one that came out in early June talking about, you know, the headlines were something like he was, you know, he was basically calling for legalization before the recommendation even came back. The recommendation just came back on Friday. And CBS, their prediction is that he's going to say, no, I don't like it. We're not going to legalize it. What?
Recently, the Democrat, who is seeking re-election in November, signaled he is more open to legalizing marijuana. Cuomo has long been wary of efforts to legalize, calling marijuana a gateway drug as recently as last year. Cuomo's shift follows a trend recently reported on by Politico magazine. The article, "Could Legal Marijuana Tip the Senate for Democrats?" explores how cautious incumbents are backing the efforts in a move to sway voters. James Higdon is the author of that piece. He's a freelance journalist who writes about drug policy for Politico magazine, and he joins me now from...
So wait a minute, let me just get this, let me catch up. The only real reason that Democrats are coming aboard to the issue finally is because they need to tip the balance on some close elections. My God, man. I mean, they know that over 70%, and I've seen some polls where it was closer to 80%. So almost 8 out of 10 Democrat voters say legalize marijuana. They know that, but they're still holding that carrot stick over your head. They're still holding that fucking carrot stick.
Louisville, Kentucky. All right, Jim, walk me through why Democratic incumbents are moving closer to outright support for legalizing just for fun marijuana.
Well, hi there. Thanks for having me. So it really depends on the state whether the Democrats and the incumbents are advocating for full recreational marijuana or merely for medical marijuana. For instance, in Florida, Bill Nelson has come out in favor of medical marijuana, but he's still made statements opposing recreational marijuana at the moment. Whereas if you look at a state like Nevada...
And that's a big mistake. That could boost your support, Bill Nelson, a little bit. And that's another thing is they think that they're in a red state, so it's some kind of a gamble. No. You will have people that are sworn Republicans, conservatives, even evangelicals now are even talking about being on board with marijuana, full legalization. It's starting to become apparent to a lot of people on the right, and I mean, I'm reading about it in my comment sections all the time, that Republicans are by and large, when you're talking about the voting base, they're done with this issue. They're like, this issue's done, ain't it? Why are we still talking about this shit? Let's be done with it. Legalize it so we don't got to talk about it anymore. Because another thing I keep hearing from conservative, whether you call them liberal media or not, I don't think any media on TV is liberal. You think the CBS is liberal? You're goofy. These guys are, nobody that works for CBS makes less than $10 billion a year. So how liberal do you think they really are? Anyway, when these guys are talking about this shit, they're talking about we should get this done so we don't keep making the kids wonder what we're talking about. You know what I mean? The cat's getting out of the bag and it's making a lot of noise. They're like, let's just let the fucking cat out of the bag already so it don't make any more noise. That's what they're saying. I mean, I didn't believe it until I heard it, but that's one of the things I heard, man. All right, what else has these dudes got to say?
Where Jackie Rosen is trying to unseat Dean Heller, she is 100% behind recreational marijuana in that state.
But why do it? Are they doing it? Are they doing it?
I mean, it's already legal in Nevada, so she better damn well be, right? It's just like in Michigan. Like we seen the campaign to legalize marijuana in Michigan talk to the governor, the people running for governor, and it was like, dude, we're already, legalization's on the ballot. So it's not a question. The question shouldn't be, are you for or against legalization? You could ask more nuanced questions at that point, you know, like, and it's the same with Nevada. They already got legalizing recreational sales has already been going on. They already have nice tax revenues coming in and stuff. Like, why would anybody be against legalization at that point in either party? I mean, if you're a Republican that's really conservative or super religious or whatever, it doesn't matter. You have people in your state, people you supposedly represent that are making money off of it and paying you taxes. The last thing they want to hear is that you come out for, you know, making legalization get repealed or something. You know, no. Or obstruction of any kind.
Because it's the right thing to do, or are they doing it because it's a thing they need to do in order to...
I already answered that one. Of course, they're just doing it for political points, which is ridiculous that they don't fully embrace this issue. That's all I'm going to say. It's almost unimaginable. I don't even know the word. Like, I can't comprehend it. There's no way to comprehend why any Democrat anywhere wouldn't just be like, oh yeah, we're going to legalize marijuana too. That's part of my platform. Put it in the platform. It's already been injected into the platforms of the Democratic conventions of a couple states already. And even Texas put it in their platform. It is a red state. Well, no, it was decriminalization, but still, the Democrats there did. And it's just becoming apparently obvious to some, but still carrot sticking is what the others want to do. And that's all it is. Unless you're talking about somebody like Dianne Feinstein, but I'm sure we're going to talk about her too.
Sway voters.
Well, I certainly wouldn't try to get in the head of a politician as to what their motives are. But it just seems that the tipping point for public sentiment on this issue has begun to move, and politicians tend to be a lagging indicator in terms of where the public is, and they're starting to get on board.
In North Dakota, voters are going to face a choice of whether to legalize medical marijuana. That's coming up in November. President Trump won that state with nearly 63% of the vote.
Medical was on that ballot, and they beat Trump. It won already. Anyway, what's he talking about?
In 2016, and you've got a Democratic senator there facing a tough bid for re-election. What's her stance on medical marijuana, which is going to be on the ballot this fall?
So just to clarify, medical marijuana passed in North Dakota in 2016 with about the same vote margin as Donald Trump had in North Dakota.
Oops.
And the ballot measure that's going to be in North Dakota this time around is full recreational.
Full recreational.
When I reached out to Senator Heitkamp
Did you hear that?
For this story, the comment I got back from her Senate office was essentially, this is up for the people of North Dakota to decide, and once they decide it, the federal government should respect that decision. So she's taking a stance, kind of a standoffish stance, but one that she seeks.
We call that wishy-washy, or just like almost like not a position at all. That's I call it on the fence essentially, and that basically is, again, you're in a red state and you're a Democrat. You don't want to take. I guess they're really afraid that, you know, if they say the wrong thing, there's going to be like extra mega churches full of Republicans that are going to come and vote against you or something. Man, it doesn't matter. On especially an issue like this, you should take the road that is paved with the poll numbers. I mean, obviously. I mean, it's 70 some odd percent of Democrats and over 50% of Republicans say legalize marijuana. It's a winning issue, so quit being on the fence.
To protect the will of the voters of her state.
So the operating theory here is that if she comes out in favor of medical marijuana, or any Democratic comes out in favor of marijuana legalization, medical or recreational, it's going to push more people to the polls, and if they're going to the polls, they're going to pull the lever for the Democrat.
Yes. I was told by one of my sources in Nevada that when marijuana is on the ballot, there tends to be an uptick in voter turnout. And so Democrats are really relying on this. In Missouri, where Claire McCaskill is in a tough re-election race, medical marijuana is on the Missouri ballot, and that could be a critical factor in these races that are going to be really narrow. Between 1 point, 2 point races, it could be just the issue that tips the balance one way or the other.
So,
and real quick, with the Democrats, it's like, that's true with a lot of issues. All you have to do is start standing for something, and telling us where you are on some issues isn't really enough, especially with the platitudes that they use. You don't really actually know. But what they could do is champion certain issues. Now, maybe they're not trying to jump on marijuana like, oh, hey, we want to legalize weed, because it would look kind of like it was their only thing going. Because quite frankly, man, and I don't think I'm the only one that's noticed this, but over the last 3 or 4 years, the Democrats kind of lost their way. They really don't have a message. They don't have a guiding principle, or like a set of issues where they're really strong. It's like, what are they really standing for exactly? Most of it is just a bunch of anti-Trump bullshit, and most of that's just a bunch of ramped up rhetoric. When it comes down to it and the rubber hits the road, there's always enough Democrats to help get whatever Trump wants to get done. So, the idea that they just want to come out half-assed on this issue, is just par for the fucking course, guys. It's just par for the course. I mean, you know, you look at them and you're like, don't you realize that 7 out of 10 of people that would vote for you, want to legalize marijuana? So at the very least, you're not going to lose any votes over it. And if you said, even if it's not on the ballot, like if you're in a place where, oh, marijuana isn't even to vote on, recreational, medical, or none of that. You're in a state like, I don't know, Alabama, where there's just absolutely no marijuana on the ballot in November. But you're an opportunity to say that you're for doing something. Like, I guess in Alabama, you got to start somewhere. I'm for decriminalizing or legalizing medical marijuana, or, you know, I don't know if they have a CBD law there or not. I don't even think they do, but whatever the case may be, you could be that guy to just be like, hey, marijuana, yay. And it would make your numbers go up. I guarantee it. Even in the fucking Bible belt buckle, or whatever you call it. Or wait, that's Oklahoma, I think. I don't know. Anyway, who cares? The Bible Belt, even the Bible Belt has evidence that there's people that are deeply religious that will use religion to justify their support for legalizing marijuana. It happened in Texas. I forget the guy's name, but he's a state rep in Texas. He's a Republican. He's a deeply religious, conservative Republican, and he's pulling Bible quotes, and that's how he's justifying his stance on legalizing marijuana. I mean, I don't know if he's even still a politician. That was a couple years ago, but it's not, you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Let's just say that. All right.
Why not put it on her platform then officially, McCaskill?
Psh, please, because like I keep saying, man, they're afraid, and they're using it for a carrot stick. They're afraid that there's some kind of, you know, phantom backlash of right-wing conservatives that don't want marijuana legalized that will go out and, you know, that wouldn't already have voted against her or whatever. And that kind of shit is it's just overhyped. But also, she knows if it gets legalized, just like that other person, oh, we'll just later on we'll protect you or whatever. No, later on we'll carrot stick you. That's what they do, man.
Well, that's a very good question, and I reached out and asked this question to her campaign. She has made a statement in January saying that medical marijuana is the right way to go, but her campaign website does not mention marijuana. She's not a co-sponsor of major pro-marijuana legislation in the Senate, so it seems like a putting her toe in the water, sort of gradually getting herself.
She is Republican light. Period. Look at her voting record. Look at what she advocates for, or I should say the lack of advocacy on certain issues. And then you tell me what you think about Claire McCaskill.
Comfortable with an issue that has not been something that she's been comfortable talking about in the past. So it's one of these instances of a Democratic incumbent being, you know, kind of new to this issue.
It's sad. And in this day and age, when the Democratic Party is a center-right party, and if you don't believe me, I can show you how they are in many ways. This McCaskill's practically a Republican. She's practically a right-wing Republican on many issues. And this is ridiculous that she's going to be almost like, I'm not touching that thing kind of on this issue. Oh yeah, we like the fact that the people are going to vote on medical marijuana in November. That is the most bland version of support I've ever heard in my life. I don't even think it's actual support for marijuana or medical marijuana. It's just support for democracy and process
of evolving.
So we have a situation where marijuana legalization, if you look at the Gallup polls, support is above 60%, but that support is clustered in certain states. So we've got North Dakota, Missouri, Nevada, not places where necessarily there's a majority, but seem to be maybe moving in that direction. Why do you think those states right now, traditionally conservative states, are taking up this traditionally liberal issue in November?
You know, I don't think it. I think it's an issue that doesn't cut between liberal and conservative the way other issues might.
And you know why that is? because if you wanted to consider the Democrats the more liberal party, which they are, I mean, historically speaking, and according to all the measurements that we have or whatever, but the problem is if you're the liberal party and you haven't made this issue yours, then it isn't your issue, and it doesn't fall between liberal and conservative lines. And from a conservative standpoint, prohibition is wrong too. So it could go either way. Democrats have failed to make this their issue, and that's why it isn't their issue. But I want to hear this guy's answer. I keep interrupting this guy, and he's doing a great job. I'm sorry, I don't know your name there in Louisville, Kentucky, but you're doing a great job. And let's hear what he had to say.
You know, I don't think it. I think it's an issue that doesn't cut between liberal and conservative the way other issues might. There's a lot of independent, a lot of libertarian-minded people who are conservative on a lot of issues who still think that marijuana ought to be legalized. And when you look at Western states like Oklahoma that just passed it by 57% on their primary ballot, or up in North Dakota, you've got a lot of people who live out in rural property who just want the government to leave them alone.
Yeah. All right, Jim Higdon, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. He's with Political Magazine. You should come back and talk about hemp. Hemp in Kentucky. That's the great frontier,
all the time,
right?
man. I can talk your ear off about hemp in Kentucky.
All right, we'll have you back. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim Higdon. Awesome answers about why the Democrats suck so bad on this issue. And yeah, it's obviously, I've been reporting on this Democrats dropping the ball on this for a long time. But I did notice Tom Angel throw an opinion piece out at the LA Times the other day, specifically about this issue. And he's got some numbers in here. So 77% of Democratic voters. Wow. That's, like I said, it's almost 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 people, man. I like his final statement down here at the end. Democratic leaders need to take a look in the mirror and recognize that their own members broadly support marijuana legalization. And then they need to look at the polls and realize that attacking Republicans for supporting cannabis reform is a great way to remain the minority party. And look absurd, too, while you're at it. Looking totally absurd. Tom Angel nails it. I'll drop a link to that in the description. But anyway, what was he talking about there? Oh, yeah, he was talking about the DCCC, the Democratic blah, 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 Congressional Campaign Committee, their job is really to help, people win elections that are running as Democrats in smaller races, not the big, the big national races like people that are running for president is usually backed by the DNC itself, the Democratic National Committee. So the Congressional Committee helps congressional candidates, and so what they've been doing this year so far is they've been engaging in primary races, which is a little bit weird. Now, the DNC said they won't do that. It's not in their purview to weigh in on, incumbent challenges or primary races in general. So they tend to stay out of it, even though we've seen Tom Perez break that. And we also seen Debbie Wasserman Schultz break that when she was the chair. So, whatever. The Democratic Party is shady as all fuck. We know that after what we've seen in 2016. But now, the DCCC, they were going after progressives when progressives was running against incumbents that were corporate Democrats. Well, now we see them going after Republican Dana Rohrabacher by smearing him on his weed fixation, I guess is what they call it. Let's just look at the tweet. So Dana Rohrabacher hasn't passed a bill in 14 years and has a, quote, cult-like fixation on marijuana and his unwavering defense of Vladimir Putin. Now, that's a weird how they just kind of like put those all in one sentence so that people like me, when we do the reporting on this, we have to mention that too. Well, I don't really care about that. The whole Red Scare shit, that's all another thing that the Democrats have been doing to try to like deflect any kind of concern about why they lost to fucking Orange Man Trump, reality talk show guy. You know, they don't want to talk about why that happened, so they're just going to go defer you all to the Russian bullshit. And I'm not going to get into that, but anyway, what? You guys have a problem with Dana Rohrabacher's cult-like fixation on marijuana? Now, there's another thing going on here. Frank Luntz, who is a Republican strategist and consultant or whatever, here he is bringing up the fact that this is just weird, you know. So the guy running against Dana Rohrabacher, the Democrat, his name is Harley Rauda, and so, you know, they scramble to delete false attack on my record as they struggle to sell their big government high tax agenda. Now, Frank Luntz is going to chime in, and he says the DCCC is trying to flip Dana Rohrabacher's House seat in California, highlighting his support for marijuana legalization. And then he says the only time Dana Rohrabacher's challenger has tweeted about marijuana was to mock his support of legalization. And here's the tweets. Rohrabacher was in Berlin as part of a tour to examine the legalization of marijuana in Europe. And this helps District 48. How? Well, let me just answer that real quick. First of all, dude, it helps because you're in your district, you have legalized marijuana. So I don't know, maybe he's just trying to learn something. I mean, yeah, it's just, what is are you a Democrat? Is Democrats this bad on the issue of marijuana? Here's another one. Here's our rep in Corona Del Mar at $2,700 a plate fundraiser with Jason Beck, Cannabis King, and McCarthy, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so Jason Beck is a cannabis personality for sure, a very wealthy one. But whatever. Why are these smears about marijuana? And I'm sure if we want to talk about fundraising, I'm sure we can find some dirt on Harley Rauda if he's being backed by the DCCC. We know he's got some super PAC money or whatever dark money coming in. And then Frank Luntz points out this neat little activity in the polling, which says 57% of Republicans. That's big. That's almost 3 out of 5 Republicans are for legalization. 77% of Democrats. That's almost 8 out of 10. Or 4 out of 5. Does that sound a little bit more like, holy shit, that's almost everybody yet? 62% of independents. And I don't know why that number is so low. What is up with independents? Independents are usually pretty smart about the issues. Why would anybody that's an independent want marijuana to be illegal? Could you tell me in the fucking comments below? Unless you're just like, well, because I want to continue to be a black market marijuana seller my whole life. And I'm cool with that. Can we come up with a different name, though? All right, I don't think I'm going to read this, but we'll say this, that when this tweet dropped, Tom Angel pointed it out, and everybody jumped on it, including Tom Angel, who wrote a fucking op-ed about it. And that's the one I just read. And, well, I didn't read it, but that's the one we just went over there. And, you know, basically hours after they published that piece, the DCCC deleted the offending tweet without comment. In addition to Blumenauer's public blasting of the organization's tweet in my op-ed, oh yeah, that was something else that happened, is Representative Blumenauer was chiming in with them on that. So anyway, at least one other Democratic congressman raised the issue during the party's House Steering and Policy Committee on Thursday. A lawmaker who was in the room but wished not to be named told me, quote, "Pure bad karma in politics," the legislator said of the DCCC tweet. So it's the issue is not, it's no longer a risky thing to say that you're for legalizing marijuana, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Granted, in some places it might be risky, and it might be even riskier if you're a Republican. But it isn't that big of a risk, you know. And a lot of people are starting to come around to the thinking that it's really not that big of a deal either way, so they don't really even care. And if pressed, they'd be like, you know what, if it was there in front of me, I'd just say vote yes. And I can't emphasize that enough. And the prohibitionists like Kevin Sabat and Chris Christie and, you know, Jeff Sessions, their time is done. Their days have long been over. And that kind of thinking that they push, and that, you know, that fear-based propaganda that they've been peddling in for decades, it wore itself out. It was never anything real, and it just you know, continuing to beat the same old talking points over and over for decades, with no one could actually see these talking points playing out in real life. It's just like, oh yeah, smoking marijuana causes people to go crazy. We just don't see that. We have 50+ million people smoking marijuana in this country right now, and we just don't see all these car wrecks and all this, all these other things that's going on. But yet, the like gateway drug thing, we have positively identified the gateway to heroin. It's fucking opioid pills. I mean, when it comes to addiction, that's a whole nother issue. Addiction isn't fucking caused by drugs. If you think addiction is caused by drugs, and that starts with marijuana, you don't know anything about nothing. All right? You have no clue what's going on in the world. And if you're a Democrat and you're still using this as a carrot stick issue, you're a piece of shit. And if you're a Democrat and you're still against legalizing marijuana, you should get voted right out of office. And if you're the DCCC, you need to come with a statement about why you was totally using marijuana to slander your opponent. When 77% of the people that would vote for Democrats are for legalization, just stop. All right? I know what it is. The DCCC is just a bunch of paid consultants. They're the ones that made the most money off the 2016 election. They didn't lose anything. They got paid, and they still have their jobs. And they still run shit, and you still ain't going to get a good Democratic thing out of the Democratic Party in 2020 or in 2018 from all I've been seeing. So I don't know what the fuck else to do, man. I don't even know if I believe any of these Democrats when they say they are full-throated for legalization, like Cory Booker or Kamala Harris. Even with the long-ass diatribes that they put videos out talking about all the injustices. Yeah, we know about all the injustices. No shit, Sherlock. But just because you can sit there and tell us about all the injustices and make us feel like you're sympathetic to us, we've seen that happen over and over again with this issue. It's called carrot sticking, and you can take that carrot stick and you know what you can do with it. All right, I'm out of here. Peace.